And the next presentation will be made Vyacheslav Lobzenev, Managing Director of the Innovative Technologies. It's a strange sounding title. It says Z Principle in the Use of Geodata. Looks like an interesting and provoking presentation. Hello, dear colleagues. I'm happy to see all of you here at the 17th Rutgers Conference. I come from the Center of Innovative Technologies here, and I will try to justify your trust. The people who don't know our company, I will familiarize you with that. We specialize, first of all, in the development of software related to the development of data, primary, secondary data catalogization, and first of all, subsequent thematic processing. This is the area that people spoke about at length today, and indeed, people use the right words, that it is indeed a monolith from which people can mine the precious gems of valuable information. And to prepare this, many years ago, when we launched, or when Canopus P was launched, we created mathematics for the primary processing to get high quality material, to make sure that this material is subsequently used in full, because without good source data there will be no good thematic processing. Examples of our Russian satellite sourced images that we processed, they've been done a while ago, but I like them very much, both in terms of their visual properties and the quality of referencing. The subsequent procedure of preparing this data was about the following. First, we had to stitch this data into a single unit to process it somehow, and in that case, here you can see an example of stitching the mosaics from different areas from Canopus P and Canopus and Resource P, and when stitching, you see automatically it's matching quite well. This fragment of 60 gigabyte, the program calculated about 2 million stitching points, and automatically it rectified the radiometric correction, and with high quality information as a result. Not all users have this capacities or productivity to work with this volume of data like 60 gigabyte. Who is going to work with that? That is why the next stage was the cutting up, which would be based on the nomenclature, randomly or based on the image itself. And then, after all this work, we work on the themes. Some of the basic things that we do, also in automatic server regime, temperature maps. The next stage of our cooperation with the Russian Ministry of Emergency Management, we prepare a report and quick processing for fire spots, for the monitoring of floods. These are the real work that we did last year. And now the issue of classification has become really relevant for us. Maybe it's old, the theme is old, but now it's a much higher level because of the multi-temporal monitoring, and we need to interpret objects not only in terms of change detection, but what actually changed there. And together with the Roscartography, we did some work last year and this year on some of the regions, and we did a multi-temporal analysis. What was the main particularity of that? Because we compared images one to another, maps to maps, and maps to images. Everything was done automatically. And the error here, you can see 0.41%, 0.37%. In other words, the accuracy of algorithms was confirmed by different materials, and the precision was in line or even higher than our expectations. We did it for the forest vegetation, actually. So what are the conclusions here? People were talking today that the the volume of space data is growing exponentially, and the number of satellites numbers hundreds. The number of thematic objectives that they perform is so broad that you cannot keep all of them in one head. And this abundance can give birth to unique opportunities, so that people would use this data and the services. But as you know, each medal has its flip side. Each coin has a flip side. Imagine a user like me, for instance. I already start feeling discomfort because among all this multiple data, it's hard to find out what data from what satellites for what purpose are better to be used, what frequency, what resolution, what is the price or availability of those data. I need a lot of time. I spend some time to retrieve this information. Imagine yourselves as a user, if you were, say, a civil servant or an urban developer who need this system. That's why many people don't need anymore a staff of program developers, but instead they need a staff made up of marketologists. In a 6 months time, they see if they need a system of monitoring for agriculture. Here you go. And this diversity is becoming so abundant that the whole complex of is forming that people feel unsure of themselves. Let's see what are we doing for people, because different people receive information differently. There is a theory that I saw once which explained to me the condition of the nature and all the processes, which answers the question for us on how to move forward. In 1991, American scientists suggested a theory of generations. The principal generations are X, Y, Z, and the so-called pre-generations, baby boomers. What was it based on? As far as our country is concerned, baby boomer generation would be 1943, 1963, people who saw the revival of the great country that was on the threshold of the exploration of space. These are the people who are still very healthy and hardworking. Their whole life was dedicated to the teamwork. They were at the source of it. Next generation after them, we could say, so these are the people whose water was charmed by Kashpirovsky Chumak. These are the people who grew up alone, independent of their parents. These people are highly responsible and they're directed at the result, and they rely on themselves only. Most of the people in this room, I think, belong to this category. The modern youngsters are the people which is called thumb generation, people who are used to writing text messages by the thumb. This is a generation which grew up in the age of in the heyday of the development of internet and social networks. And internet is an integral part of their life. They are known for high level of education, but their quality and their tempo of life has changed, and they're impatient. They cannot keep focused on the same thing for a long time. They need to get immediate result. And the new generation, which comes after 2003, this is Generation Z. And its main particularity is that people who are studying in primary school now are having hard time to concentrate on something for longer than 8 seconds. And 8 seconds would be the filter which allows them in this limitless information space not to get lost. And this is their natural protector. For us, this is also an element of discomfort, because we are used to go into the depth of things, and we understand we don't have time to go into the depth of things because of the abundance of all these processes. And this 8 seconds would be the key answer to all our questions of today. And whereas the X and Y generations are more like digital migrants who entered this digital world from the outside, the Z generation is the generation which is growing in front of us and which is going to manage all the process in the future. In 2007, for instance, our program already had perfect interface with 150 connectable modules, thousands bullet points in the menu, and adjustable elements, and all the specialists who knew how to operate it were highly respected. But now, for instance, about 3-4 years after that, teach how to use this program. I wouldn't teach new generation how to teach it. Like if Viktor Nikolaevich starts teaching youngsters how to use photo mod, I would like to see young people how they take it. Now it's a different speed of time, and this 8 seconds are not enough to go through all those thousands of bullet points of this menu. How should it be reorganized in the ideal world? Maximum there should be a few button pushes, a few selections to fit within this 8-second parameter, and people would select a district, a task, or a subtask in a particular subdivision, and they would reconnect later on, and after some time they get a formalized report and look it up and see whether they got what they expected. They didn't spend more than 8 seconds on doing this work. If we look further on, I would also set the task differently. The original request should come from the users when the satellite receives information that this image acquisition is done for a particular agency or ministry for a particular task, and then this smart satellite would realign the payload to acquire the images for that task. Like it would automatically change the angle of acquisition, change the swath size, choose the spectral bands, and do the acquisition within the spectral bands which are required for a particular task. They could be totally different and incompatible with each other, and then the required flow of data goes back to Earth, and the required algorithm then processes it without human interference, providing the final report on the result of this work. As long as we're not doing satellites here, we'll go back to the Earth-based processing. Let's see what it would look like. The user chooses the task. The system tells that this assignment is selected for a particular theme. Automatically they retrieve from the database, if available, some relevant materials. They select the required algorithm that would meet the requirements. The controller then distributes the computation powers, and the computation process starts. In this case, we suggest the use of a special media center that would handle such issues. As a result, we get PDF or JPEG or GIS report, just like originally specified by the task.
With the Russian mapping agency, we use raster and vectors, creating automatic vectorization and report generation. So we can use different basic data. This service is being tested as a pilot for half a year now. And these are screenshots which take 8 seconds to analyze. We have a set of tasks, and a user can choose from a list and you can launch a task remotely. Each user has his own room with the login and password. He has a list of accessible tasks, and he can get a status report on his inbox. Once a task has been done, he can look up the result in his room. For example, separation of ice from clouds, and he can download the actual gigabytes to his working station. Together with Roscartografia, we did a couple of areas of interest. In Ulyanovsky district, then there was seamless mosaic created, and we also did change detection and creation of cartogram based on map sheets. So we receive a report as A3 format sheets. As an example, to make my presentation in that style or Z style. What is the distinctive feature of Z generation? Youngsters don't read books. They are receptive to various smiles, icons, symbols, so we need to provide data that is easy to understand for them. So we as developers need to make proper decisions, creating technology that will communicate or convey data in the best way possible. So these are two images, 1 square kilometer of area. How much time would an operator need to mark all changes, to classify and vectorize them? We would say about 5 minutes. These are the changes. It's a fairly arduous and meticulous task. If we take area of interest with 194,000 square kilometers, simple calculations will show that it will take 8.5 years for an operator of routine work to process it. If we go automatic and use a fairly regular computer, this is how fast it did it. Automation gives such a huge advantage in such basic technology. It's like comparing excavator to a child's bucket playing in the sandbox. This technology is being tested now. These are real screenshots showing that the system works. Not all the tasks can be fully automized with 90% reliability. This is what the biggest challenge is. This is what we're struggling with, making baby steps forward. Using a phone to manage this process is not very convenient, but you can launch processing, control processing, get progress reports. This is a print screen that I made here at the conference, by the way. Thank you for your attention. Brilliant. Thank you, Vyacheslav. It's been extremely exciting, Vyacheslav. Any questions? Well, you mentioned learning. We also moved to a one-button solution. We believe that punching one button is the right move, and we're So you wanna steal our thunder. In your thematic and photogrammetric developments, one button solutions are not always relevant and not always possible, right? But someone should be developing it. But you just berated and criticized the youngsters. I like young people joining my company. Sometimes they're much smarter. This is still X generation. So 10 years from now, this is it. I look at things. I look at the bright side of things. Anybody else who wants to dispute with Vyacheslav Nikolaevich? I sit next to an esteemed professor and sharing thoughts about grandchildren. Our grandchildren go to the third grade, and their behavior is just like Vyacheslav described. As far as this one-button solutions, they come to grips with them very quickly. But for them, writing a sentence in Russian from start to finish, that's a hard job for them. They make a lot of errors, spelling errors. So I support Vyacheslav's presentation. It's not a this session keeps getting better and better. Let's meet again 10-20 years from now, and Vyacheslav will tell us if his theory proved right, because any theory can be tested by time.